Alright. This is for you. I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. I gotta look it up. Special shouts to Raphael Orlando for this recommendation. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen. This would be an oddball video. I'm going to do a jungle match. Just because if I do an actual game, I'm never going to cover all the items. So I'm going to do a jungle match. Just to cover up the items. And Gib just being perfect because he can cover up all those items. Say hello to the people, Gibbs. Yeah, say hello to the people, Gib. Alright. So, let's talk about starter items first. For those of you that wish to really love to play support conquests, or are new to playing support, here we go. For comps that are aggressive, because first off, you need to know ahead of time what the matchup is always going to be like. If you're fighting against a heavy CC comp, you would pick heroism. Compassion would be a nice item to have if it's not against like a law CC. But half the time in Smite, there will be just 5 gods with 5 different CCs, or at least 4 gods with CC. So heroism will be often picked, but if it's a comp that doesn't have any CC or little to none, you would want compassion if you're going for the benevolence starter. Benevolence kind of the weakest of the starters, just by base starter. However, once it hits late game, it's one of the better starters to have when it hits late game for peeling your teammates. Now, let's talk about the other 2 starters. War Flag is an aggressive starter that lets you and your team do pressure early, do objectives early, and once you hit late game, it depends on your type of support. If you're going to go in there and try to give you and your teammates some bonus damage, you would often want to go for Spartan Flag. Spartan Flag doesn't give you any protections, however, so you're going to have to make up more protections for that. However, the item itself basically gives you and your team a Bologna buff. It gives you your attack speed. It gives you power. For example, thank you. I missed. Ignore that. There's your Spartan Flag radius. Gives you and your team some attack speed, some power, and it will go off every time the area is off. So you can keep easily reprocking it as long as you and your team are grouped up. Even if you leave the area, it's going to still stay there. So while you can just proc it for your team by hitting enemy god, you can keep trying to zone them out and have them retreat to peel off your team, while your team can stand in the area to deal bonus damage and attack speed. War Banner is for mostly laning phase. War Banner gives you stronger attack speed. It's basically a talisman of energy. Exactly the same passive, except a slightly better amount. For War Banner, if you kill enemy minions or enemy gods, you get attack speed. JK, what happened there? You have to get the assist. Sorry, JK. I think it's Talisman that lets you just kill an enemy, right? Getting a kill or assist. Yep, that's Talisman. So Talisman, you could get a kill or an assist on minion grunts or enemy gods. War Banner, or sorry, yes, War Banner. I was actually right. I don't build that item too much. You can't kill the enemy grunts. Let your teammates do it, and then they will be able to get so much more attack speed and movement speed, which will save their lives. So let's go on to the meta items. Meta items being just Prophetic Cloak and Sentinel's Gift, Tainted Steel, and of course, who can forget Gauntlet of Thebes? Let's start with Sentinel's Gift. Sentinel's Gift is all around a safe starter item if you're not used to starter items for supports. It gives you health, it gives you mana when you get an assist for your hunter or for anyone around you, killing grunts or enemy gods. It gives you some nice MP5, so you don't have to worry about mana too early. It gives you some decent protections, and both leveling ups for the starter item are often times great. For Conquest, people often go for Boon because they are super down in gold by sacrificing basically their entire experience and gold pool to make sure that their teammates have a lead. So oftentimes they are down by 4k. So Boom, helps you get those bonus gold stats online. And plus, it's just a stun of Gaia for laning phase, because you get bonus healing and mana regeneration for when an enemy or for when an ally kills a grunt or an enemy god. Sentinel's Embrace is much stronger than Boon in terms of protection stats. And it's an aura, so it gives your teammates protection stats as well. It's just that once you get Embrace online, well, you won't have a lot more. You won't have that bonus gold that Boon gives you. So while you have a nice tanky stat online, you will be suffering a little bit in terms of trying to still collect gold. Because by the time supports usually get the starter item, it's already almost Fire Giant Dances. I have Bull Demon King stuck in my head today. Sorry about that. Gauntlet of Thebes, all around the best support item. That you usually go for Gauntlet of Thebes or Prophetic Cloak first. However, Gauntlet of Thebes is much more easier to stack than Prophetic Cloak, so it is more likely, more of the time, the best and popular choice to go. All you need to do, just buy it. Let your allies get minion kills or kill an enemy god. You get 5 stacks for when an ally kills an enemy god or when you kill an enemy god. But when your allies are able to kill a minion, you gain a stack. That stack is just 1 protection for both physical and magical. And once you level it up or evolve it, you get a 10% more, or sorry, not 10%, 10 flat out protections. So the item basically gives you 55 protections in both magical and physical, while also having HP 5 and sharing 10 protections in both departments for your allies around you. For the other one, this Prophetic Cloak is not for all gods. You have to make sure to always land your abilities on enemy gods, but have to be in a safe distance. For Gib, it's perfect because you can just do that. You get your Prophetic, and you can just screw off. For gods like Ares, he wants to be aggressive all the time, so it can work, and his chains are rather long range. It's just you have to make sure to land those chains. But like I said, it is not for all gods. Some gods just cannot stack this item because 1, you need to be safe when you stack it. Because if you just go in to try to get it, you might get punished because Prophetic Cloak does not offer any good stats. And half the time, you have to build it first or second, and it's just a dead item in your inventory until you get that item stacked up. Once stacked, it shares 20 magical and physical flat out protections to your teammates, so it's another aura item. So if you pair this up with Gauntlet of Thebes, you're sharing 30 with your teammates, which is very good. The item offers, I think, 60-60, which is 5 protections higher than Gauntlet of Thebes, but a lot harder to stack, of course. For gods that are fighting against a heavy CC comp, Absolution is a must-go, but only on gods that have instant ults. So for me, if my ally is being killed by CC, say a Hun Bats, I can just do this. Instantly proc Absolution. If I was Ares though, it would be channeling, and it has to be when the ult finishes. Same thing with Jormungandr, same thing with Cthulhu. You know, gods or supports with channeling abilities are not good with this item. Gods that have instant ults, say like Bacchus, Ymir, early cancel, Gib, Kepri, those gods are very fantastic with it. Now, if you know you're going to get pressure early and you don't think you can stack Gauntlet of Thieves, I would suggest a Manticore Spike. It gives you mana, it gives you some decent stats, and those spikes will really matter late game once you get enough protections on you. The spikes, of course, you have to pick up, and they only proc on hard crowd control. So you can't just have a spike when you hit an enemy god. You have to make sure it's a hard crowd control. And then you can pick it up. Of course, stunning, knocking up. Rooting, I don't think is one. Disarming, I think is one, but not rooting. And I think Mez might be one. I'm not sure. Smite's very finicky with hard crowd control. For gods that are fighting against anti-heal, there is Pestilence and there is Contagion. Contagion is good for when you're fighting against anti-heal or healing and plus a lot of crowd control. So say a Nox paired with a Sylvanas. You would want to sacrifice a physical protection item to get Contagion, because that Contagion would really like poke a lot of their health out. And on top of that, you will want to build Contagion more times than less, because one, physical damage hurts more than magical damage in the game. You can have 180 magical protections and you can be good all throughout the entire game. While physical, if you have even 300 physical, you still get chunked very hard once a hunter hits late game. So you have to be very cautious about that. So half the time, for me personally, I would raise my physical stats about 250, 275, sometimes 300, and my magical would just be around 150 to 200. Now, if you're fighting against if you're worried about magical though, what you can do is build a lot of physical, and then go for Amulet of the Stronghold. Converts a lot of your magical or physical protections into magical protections by 15%. On top of that, Harbored Amulet also has the aura of giving your teammates mana protection and mana per second. Magical protection and mana per second. I think it said mana protection. Whoopsie. So, that is a nice choice and a great glyph to go into. And then if you want to be aggressive in mana department, there's Talisman of Energy. There is Genji's, Oni's. Oni's allows you to take up a lot of damage, because the more you're around enemy gods, the more damage mitigations you will be able to obtain from them. And it's 4 damage mitigations per stack. So that equivalents to 12% right there, easy. Genji's, if you want to do a cooldown spam, just get a Genji's. I can't remember. Yes, it's magical damage. I thought it was from both magical and physical. No, it's just magical. If you take a magical hit from either a basic attack or ability, all your cooldowns, I believe, go on 3 seconds. Yes. I did double check. I haven't used Genji's in quite a bit. But it is an excellent strategy for gods that really want cooldown spam. Shoguns, very useful in situations if you're really helping out your squad doing attack speed. So half the time, I like to pair Shoguns up with Emperor's armor. So that way it'd be more sieging phase for me, because I can just go on a tower, reduce its attack speed, and my hunters will be able to take out the tower a lot faster. However, Emperor's Armor isn't popular because in jungle skirmishes, it's not the best. But for sieging purposes on Tower or Phoenix, it is one of the best items to have in the game. Currently going to get buffed is Abyssal Stone, which will be a great item to have against assassins, due to the fact that it is one of the only items that does negative cooldown reduction. The assassins will often go for Jotun's first item. So mitigating Jotuns, which is a very big power spike for assassins, because assassins just love having 20% off the bat, including mages. Mages love to go Chronos Pendant off the bat, and then there's Sands of Time. So having Abyssal Stone giving them negative stats for crowd or cooldown reduction honestly hurts both mages and assassins altogether. Warriors, they care, but not like assassins and mages. They really rely on their abilities to get in, do the damage, get out. Archdruid Fury is more for squishier gods, say like junglers, because then you can stack up Archdruid Fury pretty fast and you can do your big burst of damage. For what it does is if you get hit for 5% of your maximum health, your next basic attack will consume all the stacks, dealing a bonus 30 magical power per stack and plus 2 per level. So right now, if it was just one stack, that would be 50 magical bonus damage. Bam. It used to be true damage, but they switched it because it was too overpowered. Because true damage, you can't mitigate, or you can't have protections to mitigate it. Magical damage, you can just mitigate it with magical protection. Pretty easy. Binding. Binding helps you and your ally gods doing bonus damage to a specific target, for they will have the binding proc on them. And that means that any god hitting this specific character will do more damage. Flat out stripping them flat protections, which it also stacks by per level. And it's not just magical either. It is both magical and physical. So you will be helping whoever is around you. Now, erosion. Erosion is good against gods, example Gib, that have shields. Nike, Gib, Odin, and Shells. And let's not forget Heroism being one of the best against crowd control comps. Erosion shuts down all of those things. It's a very helpful item. The only thing that has a big drawback on it is the stats on it are just not that good. However, if you are dealing with shields, erosion is a great pickup choice for you. For gods that have invisibility or have blink options, there is Mystical Mail. Mystical Mail doesn't really have too many good stats on it. In fact, the only thing very memorable about it is the 20% crowd control reduction. For 35 is a very low stat for just having physical and 200 health. Binding does so much more than that, and binding you can solo enemy gods with just binding. However, Mystical Mail has its own counter ability. It counters people with blinks, and it counters invisible gods. The only downside with that is you can't be around mess gods if your allies miss your enemy. So it counters Kumba pretty hard because the tick will get them out of that mess. And on top of that, if you have blink while having Mystical Mail, your blink will always be on that 2-second. You gotta wait because you're in combat. Because if you tick a minion or an enemy god, blink will always be on cooldown because of that. Now then, Gladiator Shield is one of my preferred items because I like to have a specific strategy of just trying to kill them. Gladiator Shield is based off on your protections in both magical and physical, I believe. Yes, protection from items, and it deals physical damage. So the tankier you are, the more damage you will do to anyone that's in the area. Of course, it does become subsequent damage the more you try to focus them. So say an alt 1 and 2. However, damage is still damage. Bonus damage is still damage. Every little damage in Smite always helps out taking out enemy god. So if it's 100 damage from your initial hit to another, like say 75 because of the subsequent, and then another 50 because it just keeps reducing itself. That is still 225 damage that you didn't do to that specific target. Of course, if that specific target has physical protections, then those stat lines will get reduced by a little bit. However, you are still doing bonus damage to them. Of course, the item you need to have protections for, because 25% plus 15, just 15 flat. It won't do enough like true things for you. You know, you need to have a build that is around gladiators. You can't just put gladiators in your build and say, okay, I can do it now. I can do it now. But you need to have a build that is situational for gladiators, and not just buying gladiators outright. Same thing with Pride Wind. Pride Wind is a shield that scales off of your protections. However, if you do not have protections, Pride Wind is very, very useless. In fact, they nerf Pride Wind a lot, so you do not see that item anymore, because not a lot of people go true protections. At the time, they do go that 1 damage item to help out with team damage against gods that dive all the time. So say like Soul Reaver against tankier targets like warriors and assassins and bruisery assassins and supports. Or they go for a Pythak piece to help out their team with lifesteal and damage. Also gives them cooldown and health, so that helps them out too. Or they can just build into Tablet, say you're coming from Soul Lane. Tablet helps out too, because right now, Breastplate of Valor is incredibly strong. It's cheap. Determination is cheap, and it's just an item outright as well. And the stats on Valor, while not having a passive, has always been super fucking strong in the game. Regrowth is a utility item only for healers. So it's great for Sylvanas, Hercules, Yemoja to an extent. Yemoja can't really abuse regrowth too much, because half the time she wants to be to your backline and she has range CC that she can just apply. Hercules and Sylvanas, you would like to move around a lot faster, so you can just help your allies by setting them up for a kill. So say Hercules, you could just have a speed boost, do your 2, throw them away with your 1, and then your allies can just finish up the rest. Spectral, of course, being an anti-crit item. Half the time, if you are dealing with a hunter that has more than 55% crit, you will want to buy Spectrals, because they will fucking eat you. They will eat you alive. And a dead frontliner means that no one's going to be peeling for your backliners. So Spectrals, honestly, very strong, and it will help you and your team out. It is also Aura, by the way, so your team also has anti-crit. Now, let's talk about Berserkers. Berserkers is great for auto attackers, but Berserkers is good for warriors mostly. No one in Guardian spot really has a spot for Berserkers. Phalanx, though, is a different story. Phalanx buffs your minions, attack speed, and health, and on top of that, gives you attack speed and protections. Which, the attack speed for Guardians, like I said, it's not... so what? Like, there's no Guardian that can really abuse attack speed like that, besides Yemoja with her healing basics. However, the item gives you 71 physical protections for getting auto attacked, and it buffs your minions pretty efficiently. So sieging under Phoenixes, Phalanx would really help you against auto attack comps. Say they have like another auto attacker assassin, an auto attacker ADC, and hell, maybe throw in an auto attacker soul lane like a Bologna. Phalanx would be perfect in that situation, because you will always have it done, and you will always have those bonus protections, making this item 71 physical protections. For it just being a very cheap item too, 2200 is just very, very slouch gold. So, and if you're still having issues with hunters, you can always go mid guardian. It slows them down, by 24% for movement speed and attack speed, which is a very big thing. However, if you are a guardian that sees a guardian with this item, what you can do is just buy a Shogun's for your team, because that item gives you 30%. So the only thing that mid-guardian will affect the enemy gods is 24% movement slow. That's about it. For Magai's, what Magai's does is it cleanses you from a CC, from any CC though, besides slows. Yeah. It says hard crowd control, but if you get rooted, the bubble pops as well. And rooted isn't supposed to classify as hard crowd control. At least that's what I've been told and what I try to proc with it. Nevertheless, though, Magai's on support, it's okay. It doesn't offer the best stats at all. And anyone can just pop it. However, for supports and assassins, it is the glyph versions. For assassins, really want revenge because they can do bonus damage to a specific target that they're diving on. And for supports, it is shelter. So if my bubble is gone, at least an ally god gets my bubble, which gives them an extra like crowd control immunity. Of course, it's only to an extent because there is a cooldown for just 8 seconds. It's not. You could say it's nothing too big, but it will save. If you're being dived on, it will save one of your backliners' lives potentially. If they do not have beads or they don't need to use beads because they are immune at the moment. For healers, again, Fablessed Hoops, really good. That's about it. It offers shielding for people who pick up the flowers if you heal ally gods. The stats are decent, and I would suggest it if you have a mystical earring already on a support character that heals. However, for support characters that heal, there's really not too many. There's Horus, there's Yermoja, there's Sylvanas, there's Terra, and that's it, unless you convert a mage into a frontliner. There's not too many frontliners that have healing aspects for the entire team. So, with that being said, moving on. Melee Renewal, it's really bad. You have to get hit to have protections, and the max protections of Melee Renewal is 45. That's including it's 15 at the moment, which means 45. No, it's 45 or no, it's 50. You have to get hit multiple times to be able to have your max protections to only an extent. Hit me. And then it's a burst of healing. That's right, keep hitting me. Keep hitting me. There's a burst of healing. And then the stacks just go away. You lost your stacks, which means you lost your protections. It is a gimmick item that just does not work very well. Because why have an item that you lose your protections on when you can have an item that is Gauntlet of Thebes that you can keep your protections on? And plus, Melee Renewal doesn't even have more protections than Gauntlet of Thebes. It's only 150 gold cheaper, but it just does all the wrong departments. Yeah, that burst healing would be really helpful if only the meta wasn't anti-heal all the time. Brawlers is about to get buffed this patch. Divine Ruin, always on every god. Contagion being great against Melee Renewal. Pestilence, if Pestilence was on someone, Melee Renewal will literally give a god 0 health. So there is no use for this item. Cannoneers, a little bit better than Melee Renewal. It's cheaper, and it basically gives you bonus gold by killing minions. That's it for the most part. I don't play with this item. It's good for early game, but that's about it. You know, it's there to basically give you a little bit more gold, but you do not have the protections needed to survive these hits. And half the time, you're not really basic attacking minions anyway. When I see this item, I think of Soul Lane, and Guardians just do not really fit that too well. You know, unless you're Maui and you just basically attack a wave, you can get that bonus, but still, it doesn't offer many good things for it. If you're a Soul Laner, I can see you maybe pulling ahead for this item, but you're going to be behind in stats because the enemy Soul Laner will be able to just build a true protection item, or will just have a damage item that will counteract the 25 protections this item has. Gauntlet of Thieves, probably the second best item in this tier tree, but doesn't come anywhere close to Thieves. Gaia is good for certain builds and certain comps that are just like poke battles all over the place. Because it does have has a second and third proc to it, but honestly, those effects are just kind of meh. You mostly buy Gaia for the regeneration against poke battles, but anti-heal also affects Gaia as well. And the biggest thing that affects this item is it has no protections. If it has protections, this item will be seen all the time. But not having protections in a tree, or in a tree that all three other items have at least protections, Gaia just doesn't meet its quota. It's an item that is very good against poke battles and sieging because you can just back up and sustain. But in terms of like what you really want it for, which is to be tanky, it's not the item for you. Wingblade is situational because of immune slows. That's it. Relic Dagger, about to get buffed. It will now have 50 seconds on its cooldown reduction rather than 40, which I see it being very dominant on supports, because what that means is you can always go into a Bewitched Dagger, or if you want, you can go into an Eldritch Dagger, because the relics on your the cooldown on your relics will honestly be super fast. Because all you need to do is level up a relic. It will have that bonus 10 to 20 cooldown reduction because you've leveled it up. As you can see here, it's 150. And now, by just purchasing it, it is now 130. And with Relic Dagger changes, or its buff timer to it, having 50 seconds reduced on 130, you will always have Shell in every fight, which will counter against Yamoja's ult every time, because Yamoja's ult is 140 seconds. It will counter Odin's Cage almost every engagement, because usually gods have, for games, you have a 40 to 50 second window to engage on gods that don't have their relics, because there is repositioning, there's death timers, there's not death timers, but they go back and come back. It takes about a minute to a minute and a half to like regank that specific character to not have their relics up. With Relic Dagger though, their relics will always be up for every engagement. So you have to force the relics out, disengage, and then re-engage. And you will be able to kill them. But I can see Relic Dagger on a lot of gods, but we'll see how it is. Because for backliners that, want a utility option, Relic Dagger is cheap. It offers good stats for how cheap it is. And on top of that, your Aegis and your beads will always be up, even if you level them too. Which is it's not a bad investment. For you being under crowd control all the time, the best one is Spirit's Robe with Onis. But Spirit's Robe, first, because it gives you 15% straight up damage mitigations for any heavy crowd control on you, which will really, really help you out with surviving an engagement. The stats on it are decent. You get cooldown, you get 20% reduce crowd control reduction. Oh, sorry, you gain crowd control reduction. I worded that wrong. And then Mantle is in a weird spot. It's good for assassins and warriors, but half the time it's just way too expensive and the gold just isn't worth the stats. You know, why have 45 when you can just buy Prophetic early game and have 60? Why have 29? Why spend 2,900 when you can just buy a Gauntlet of Thebes, wait about 3 to 4 minutes, and you can have 55 protections? The only thing great about Mantle is the stun. Like, Mantle of Discord is great for engaging onto an enemy god, and then they do a lot of damage to you. And so you can provide the 1 second stun onto them, which will help you a lot by killing the enemy god. But stat-wise, it is not good. If they pre-beats a stun, you are a sitting duck. So that's Mantle, and it's also why you don't see too many Mantles anymore. And let's see. Sickle, just honestly, just for healers. It used to be a good Aphrodite Hell item, but then they nerfed the physical protections on it. However, still a decent item, but it fell out pretty fast. What you don't know is if you or ally god are healed with your abilities, you gain a protection buff that is 10 magical and physical, which it's honestly not that strong, because Gauntlet of Thieves can just do Lotus Sickle's job, but still a little bit better because of the stats. It's cheap though, so that's the only thing that's really going for it. But in this item tree, I see Relic Dagger, Toxic Blade, and only Wing Blade being picked up, and Lotus Sickle just kind of disappearing. Sovereignty, it's okay. You don't see it picked up too much, but honestly, it still has a spot in the meta. The only issue is it fits a specific playstyle where you have to play super passive. You know, you are the reactionist. You are there to peel enemy gods off of your allies. That is it. I love sovereignty. Like, don't get me wrong. I am a sovereignty lover. But there is just so many better physical protection opportunities you can go. Like Valor into Determination. That item just gives you so many protections. What you don't know about Determination is if you get hit by a magical or physical ability or auto attack. I think it's abilities though. Yeah, the damage type you take by ability. You gain a stack. Each stack will offer 7 protections. Soon it will be nerfed to 5, but each stack will offer protections, and at max stacks, when you are 4 magical and 4 physical, they double and it gives you movement speed. So this item, by just spending 600 gold on an item that already gives you 55 physical protections, you gain, as of when it will get nerfed, you will gain from 75 physical protections if you are maxed on physical stacks, and if it doubles it, you will gain 95 physical protections and 40 magical protections. The item gives you way too many protections for it being a 2850 gold item, which again beats Mantle that is 2900 gold. Offers better cooldown, offers mana regeneration for the cooldowns, and has 95 if you proc the passive on Determination, 95 physical, 40 magical versus 45, and you get 1 second stun for every 110 seconds, by the way. And is that it? I am checking. Yes, that is it. Anyways, If you want to go aggressive on Guardians, E-Staff is a great option. For utility purposes, Chronos Pendant is also another great option, but with Breastplate being here, and of course some other cooldown options, Chronos Pendant will be kind of just a filler gap if you have just 20% cooldown reduction. So that if you want to hit 40 while you have 20, Chronos Pendant. You don't see Gem of Isolation more on supports because of how they redid it. E-Staff just being very good for being a beat stick because you just took health stats from Guardians or Warriors, and then Chronos Pendant giving you utility, Pythag for the whole team, Soul Reaver trying to shut down frontliners, and that is about it for all those items. But yeah. Thank you everyone so much for watching. And as per always, I will see you all next time. What do you say, Gib? Bye.